Good afternoon, welcome to the BBC News at 1 o'clock. It started in New York, but now the dealings of an American trader are having a massive impact here. Bernard Madoff has been charged with fraud in what is potentially the biggest scandal of its kind. Banks here are now being affected in what could be a $50 billion swindle. The Royal Bank of Scotland and HSBC have invested hundreds of millions of pounds. Santander, which owns Abbey and Alliance in Leicester, says it has invested £2 billion. Ben Gagan reports on the global fallout.
Bernie Madoff, a one-time Wall Street hero who made millions for investors as well as for himself. But last week he was arrested, suspected of being behind one of the most astonishing frauds in history. Some of the world's biggest banks have been frantically trying to find out whether they face losses through his hedge funds and other investments.
Everybody now, particularly when we come out of the boom period we have, and we're coming into what is quite a tough period, everybody gets a little bit more cautious and takes a closer look at what's going on. And that's one of the reasons, of course, that this scheme has been found.
Among the British banks affected, Royal Bank of Scotland has confirmed it faces potential losses of almost £400 million. According to the Financial Times, HSBC has also been heavily exposed to the tune of around £650 million. And Spanish Banco Santander, which owns Abbey and others, says it's invested over £2 billion through Mr. Madoff's business. Bernie Madoff allegedly told colleagues last week that his $50 billion investment fund was nothing more than a big lie and had been insolvent for years. Here, bankers have criticised the American regulators for not acting sooner.
Now it's very difficult for people to invest in things that are meant to be regulated in America because they have fallen down on the job. And this is all through the credit crunch that this has been apparent. And this is the biggest scandal, financial scandal, probably in the history of the markets.
In a speech to city workers today, the Tory leader said the rich and well-connected should not be protected from the law.
Doctors who behave irresponsibly get struck off. Bankers who behave irresponsibly should face professional consequences. And for sure, if anyone is found to have behaved criminally, then they must be prosecuted.
Bernie Madoff's alleged fraud could land him with a 20-year prison sentence. In Britain, city whistleblowers are being encouraged to come forward if they have evidence of financial wrongdoing. Ben Gagan, BBC News.
Well, our business editor, Robert Peston, is at the London Stock Exchange for us now. How significant is it and what's the likely impact here, Robert?
Well, this is very big stuff. I mean, $50 billion in a swindle. It's almost beyond comprehension. And it has damaged, some of the best-known financial institutions in the world. I mean, RBS, Santander, owner of Alliance, Leicester and Abbey, HSBC, Man Group, they've all fessed up that they've got exposure, and their losses could run to hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for each of them. I mean, really quite a worrying scenario for banks that are already weakened. But here's what particularly worries me. It will also undermine confidence in hedge funds in general. Those hedge funds are in receipt of $1.5 trillion of investors' money. Those investors are becoming very nervous about the outlook for hedge funds. If investors pull their money out of hedge funds, that leads those hedge funds to dump shares, to dump property. That will then have a further negative impact on the stock market. And of course that damages all of us if we're saving for a pension, because we depend on the value of those assets, that property, those shares for our retirement income. So let's be clear, it's an astonishing, a jaw-dropping alleged fraud, but it's also an event that does have consequences for all of us.
Robert Peston, thank you. An inquest into the death of a young disabled man and his mother